in the nick of time.
That was unbelievable and indescribable! You absolutely had to be there, and no explanation would ever do it justice!
Yeah, I agree with that. So this is a show I've been wanting to talk about for a while now. Like, at least a year. But you guys wouldn't vote for it. Yeah, I'm blaming you guys. I tried to make you guys happy, but did you ever think about my needs? No. You guys just want to hear me riff on Don Bluth and dragons again? Well, you know what? This is my channel. I'm gonna review what I want to, and there's nothing you can do about it. Except maybe, like the video, subscribe, share the video, and hey, maybe while you're at it, maybe even support me on Patreon, which I have now. Was that a good plug? I've never done one of these before, so I don't know if I did it right. I've got to have money. Back when I was reviewing Big Hero 6's series and constantly banging my head on the desk in sheer frustration, I accidentally turned on Netflix and Kid Cosmic was there. I didn't know much about it, but it looked harmless enough. But then I saw that it was created by Craig McCracken? The same guy who made the original Powerpuff Girls, Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends, and Wonder Over Yonder? He made a brand new show? Hot damn, I'm in! I didn't know what I was expecting, but let me just say, this show was, well, in a weird way, exactly what I was looking for. A superhero show that has an awesome comic book art style and aesthetic, a killer soundtrack, a very likable and relatable main character, side characters that actually get development, is actually a funny show, actually plays with the typical conventions of comic book tropes rather than just uses them to make cheap pop culture references, has actual commentary to say, and doesn't feel like a cheap knockoff of something else? Hot damn! This is everything Big Hero 6's series should have been! Oh my god! And to think that I had to go to Netflix for a show that I wanted, not Disney! Seriously, what is it about Netflix that just outshines Big Hero 6 in every conceivable way? It's a madhouse, I tell you! It's a madhouse! Oh, here we go again. RaisorBlade shitting on Big Hero 6. Well, I guess the sky is blue after all. Okay, before you all start commenting on that, I promise you this is not a comparison video between those two shows. I actually do want this video to focus on why this show is good in its own right, not when compared to...
It's time to start being a little less honey and a lot more lemon.
I might end up bringing up Big Hero 6's series every once in a while, but only to make an actual point on why this show genuinely succeeds. I promise, though, this will be a rare occurrence. Because for real, though, Kid Cosmic blows a lot of shows out of the water. Seriously, though, Craig McCracken just always seems to know how to knock it out of the ballpark each and every time. Compare him to the other two big names that were around at the same time he was, Seth MacFarlane and Genndy Tartakovsky. Now, don't get me wrong, both of these creators are talented individuals as well in their own rights, but even though Seth created Family Guy and American Dad, he also created The Cleveland Show, and also those live action movies, which were... Genndy created Dexter's Lab, Samurai Jack, and is currently working on Primal, which is easily one of the best animated shows around right now. But he also made the Hotel Transylvania movies, which were also fine, honestly a little overhated, but not great. But he also, while not directing, did write the story for the fourth one, which was...
It's just awful. It's unwatchable.
While Seth and Genndy are both talented animators who definitely influenced the landscape of animation, Craig is strangely the one I see talked about the least, but is also the most consistently good out of the three. While the other two had points where they ended up failing, which I'm not shaming them for, it happens even to the best of us, Craig is the one who just constantly kept delivering stellar quality every time he touched something. Like, seriously, it's insane he's gone this long without making something truly bad like the other two have. The closest I can think to him having a failure in his career would probably have to be the Powerpuff Girls movie. And honestly, I think that movie was pretty good, for what it was. And that was more of a financial failure, so I don't really blame Craig for that. Also, on a side note, while I was editing this video, Craig recently admitted on Twitter that the movie's failure apparently was so bad for him he didn't want to watch it again for like 20 years. You can clearly tell that he takes failure very seriously, and as such, he's always trying to make better stuff. So you gotta commend him for that. Again, it's just vastly impressive that Craig has been able to make not just 2, not just 3, but 4 amazing TV shows in a row. Again, that's just nuts. And yet still, I don't see many people talking about him. I mean, don't get me wrong, I've seen people make videos on Kid Cosmic already, but it's not really the same as with Genndy or Seth. Probably because those two have failed at stuff in the past, and that's more interesting to talk about. Even I'm guilty of this, since the last time I thought about Craig was when Cartoon Network made that weird Powerpuff Girls reboot in 2016.
It's party time!
And even then, it wasn't about him directly. He's the creator of the original show, so yeah, you're gonna think about him. And now we have that live action one that's gonna come out soon, and yeah, you get it. Look, my point is, Craig deserves way more respect and attention than he gets. For example, did you know that he actually helped get both Chowder and Regular Show off the ground by working on the pilots for both shows? Seriously, it's like he's got the Midas touch or something. Like, what the fuck? I seriously just can't get over how good he is at his craft. But I think the best way to really illustrate this is to finally get to talking about Kid Cosmic. In a video about Kid Cosmic. Finally. So Kid Cosmic is about a young kid named, well, Kid, who lives with his Papa G in the middle of nowhere. Kid is your typical, kid, this is so weird, who loves superheroes with a burning passion. So much so that he wants to become one himself. Right off the bat, Kid becomes pretty relatable since, well, come on, who didn't want to become a superhero when they were a kid? I know I did! Well, there's no specific date. I believe the show takes place sometime between the late 70s to early 80s, given the technology we see in it. Vinyls, corded phones, VHSs, and Atari 2600, so yeah, I think it's safe to assume that's where we are. Despite Joe having a smartphone. Yeah, that's a slight oversight, right? Craig McCracken said that this show was based off of his own childhood, and that it's been kind of in the woodwork since at least 2009. After he finished Wonder Over Yonder, he began fleshing the story out some more, and by the time he made a deal with Netflix, Kid Cosmic was ready to go. And good thing too, because if he had waited about a year later, then this show might have never even seen the light of day. Thanks, Netflix. You shot yourself in the foot like a bunch of dumbasses. Alongside Kid is Joe, a teenager who's bored of her own small town and wants to go see the world, #relatable. Rosa, a 4-year-old girl who loves to play. Papa G, Kid's super laid-back guardian who deeply cares about him. And Tuna Sandwich, his pet cat. Together, these 5 would become Kid Cosmic and the local heroes. When the show begins, a spaceship crashes on Earth, and Kid finds 5 stones of power from it. After turning them into rings by simply gluing them to lug nuts, the wearer is able to use the power however they like. Green allows the wearer to fly. Purple allows the wearer to open portals. Blue allows the wearer to grow gigantic.
Somebody get their baby!
Yellow allows the wearer to multiply themselves.
Begun. The Clone War has.
And finally, red allows the wearer to see the future.
I love nature so much! Hello, birds!
It also turns out that aliens from all around the galaxy are after the stones as well, so it's up to our young and old heroes to stop the invaders and protect the Earth, regardless of how much they suck at it. Okay, so I know I said I wouldn't do this often, and I meant it, but I'm sorry, I gotta shit on the show some more. You know, the more you complain, the more I'm gonna do it, right? Your anger feeds me. So remember in Big Hero 6 the series, where Big Hero 6 was just embarrassingly incompetent? Like, to an insane degree how bad they were? Sure, the show was treating it as a joke, but they beat that horse so viciously that it just became exhausting. And yes, I am aware of the irony in that statement, but I promise I have a point.
Then make it.
For 3 whole seasons, the heroes kept falling all over themselves because the show thought it was going to be funny, and on top of all that, whatever development the characters were supposed to get was just overwritten by the next episode, so it never felt like the characters truly grew. Even when they had a victory, it was often because of some plot convenience instead of the characters actually growing. I'm not saying the heroes have to win every time. Quite the contrary, I want to see the heroes lose, but I actually want to see the loss affect the characters. In Big Hero 6 the series, when the heroes lose, they mope for like 10 seconds, get some generic pep talk from whoever the episode was about, and then they go, you know what, you're right, we'll get them next time, and then they repeat that bullshit for 3 whole seasons. It's repetitive, it's boring, it's tedious, which is why it's actually super refreshing to see these heroes actually develop when they lose a fight. Take episode 2 for example, when Rosa steals one of the rings from Kid, thinking it's a toy, and grows to a massive size. Kid, wanting things to be like his comic books, doesn't want a baby on his team, so he tries everything he can to get the ring back. This is when we find out that while people like Superman and Thor can fly, they also have other powers too, like super strength or a giant hammer or axe. But flying on its own, isn't exactly the best superpower when it comes to fighting.
She's no friend. She took my cosmic ring of power. She's a foe!
Especially when you're like 8 years old. Frustrated by this, Kid throws a tantrum and insults Rosa to her face about being a baby and not wanting to be her friend. This allows Chuck to steal the rings and effectively make the heroes lose the fight. Yeah, you see where I'm going with this, right? But soon enough, Rosa comes back to save the day anyway, and Kid, wait for it, learns his lesson and accepts Rosa onto the team. Because A, he realized that heroes don't crap on others just because they don't fit their standards, and B, Kid actually got to see what Rosa can do. And from that point on, Kid and Rosa remained friends and didn't have to repeat the same lesson again. Almost like the development these two had actually meant something. Who'd have thunk it? Then you have episode 4, which starts off with the heroes basically getting their asses kicked, and the only reason the alien is defeated is because they foolishly crashed into some power lines. This episode is pretty much everything to me. The episode is basically a montage of the heroes winning through sheer plot convenience, like this one alien who can't wear the rings because he doesn't have fingers, or this one who comes to Earth and literally just suffocates. Did I forget to mention this show can be delightfully dark sometimes? Seriously, despite being a kid's show, it's not afraid to push boundaries. Creatures do in fact die in the show. There's an occasional adult joke cleverly hidden here and there, and the cat even says a swear at one point.
Is that me? Hot damn!
Watch your profanity.
When's the last time you heard an actual kid's show actually swear? And not one of those kiddie swears like crap or freaking, a full, bona fide swear word.
Hot damn!
Not Hoover Dam, not Beaver Dam, just damn. I can only imagine how many mothers were freaking out over this one word. Oh, hot damn, I'm getting off topic. Hey, RaisorBlade, why is it okay when this show is using plot convenience but not Big Hero shit? Because A, they don't do this for 3 fucking seasons, and B, it actually builds up to something. For the first couple of times, the heroes win because, again, they just got lucky. But as the episode carries on, eventually they do get the hang of using their powers. First is Rosa, who, because of her large size, is able to make short work out of most enemies. There's even this one joke in the episode with her that's so freaking funny that I'm not going to spoil it for this video. But I will say this, it is dark. And hot damn is it funny. But the cool thing about the show is how practical it is with everyone's powers. There's only so much growing big can do. And when you've been abducted by xenomorphs with British accents and are now stuck in the vacuum of space, well, growing big would just kill you. But fortunately, someone else can create portals and lead everyone home. That's when Joe becomes good at being a hero. Then later Papa G gets good, and even Tuna Sandwich gets good. Everyone gets good. Everyone. Every single member. Yeah, we're definitely not missing anyone. Seriously, not a single person has been missed. Oh yeah, Kid doesn't get good. Kid is the one member that doesn't get any better. Like I said already, flying isn't that great of a superpower in terms of combat. It's cool for getting from one place to another, but when fighting giant aliens, it just seems rather impractical. When you look at heroes who can fly like Superman, Iron Man, Thor, or others, but they often have something that comes with it like super strength, a suit of armor, or maybe just a bunch of money. Kid can fly, but that's pretty much it. And before you try to correct me on what his actual power is, even Kid doesn't know what it actually is yet, and it doesn't change how he uses his power in the season. Being an 8-year-old kid, he's not exactly the strongest around, and on top of that, he's got his head so deep down in the comic panels that the ink is blinding him. And yet Kid, believing himself to be capable of being a great hero, doesn't fully realize that the power of flight alone isn't a great power for fighting alien invaders. Compare this to the other heroes who can grow really big, allowing them to smash everything in sight, create portals that can allow them to move somewhere even faster than flight, and also cut people in half, multiplication, which can basically make someone a one-man army, for better or for worse, and even telepathy, which can allow you to see the future and predict what's about to happen next. Comparatively, Kid's powers are easily the worst on the team, since his powers can't really be used to fight aliens or save the others, especially since they're fully capable of fighting aliens or saving the others. So what this show does is actually flesh out the side characters and have them grow as the show continues? And while that's going on, our main character is pretty much left out in the rain, unable to accept the fact that he just might not be good enough? It's almost like that's exactly what I wanted to happen to another franchise. You have no power here. The video's already been made! You're watching it right now. You can't go back and change the video, nor can you unwatch the video. It's been done, and it will stay that way forever. But seriously, let's talk about these characters now because I love them. I have a soft spot for chill, laid-back characters. If the character is a super nice, go-with-the-flow kind of person, I'm probably gonna love them instantly. You got Crush from Finding Nemo, Chicken Joe from Surf's Up, Jude from 16, almost everyone from Dazed and Confused, Wayne and Garth from Wayne's World, God. Yeah, you knew he'd be here. And now, introducing Papa G. Papa G is just so freaking cool, you guys. You know that meme with the 2 nickels and Doofenshmirtz? Well, Papa G has his own version of that. He doesn't conform to the internet.
If I had a nickel for every time I heard that, I'd have a dime.
Now, granted, it's not as good as Doofenshmirtz, but still, he's so freaking cool. I love how he's just so unequivocally supportive of Kid and his adventures. Being his grandfather, he's always working to make sure Kid is happy no matter what. Almost to the point where it's actually a huge flaw of his. Like this one time when Kid was feeling down on himself for not being able to score a win like everyone else has, so he uses his ring to clone himself and pretend to be a robot army and be defeated so that Kid can feel better about himself. Now in hindsight, this didn't seem like that big of a deal, because parents do this sort of thing all the time. You're playing a game with your kid, you sometimes lose on purpose. But of course, this plan backfires when it turns out that his ruse was videotaped. Kid ends up seeing the tape eventually and ends up feeling worse than ever before because he was lied to. But you never once feel like Papa G was doing a bad thing, he was just looking out for his kid. And after finding out what happened to his actual parents, you completely understand. Kid's all that Papa G has, and it makes sense why he'd want to make him happy. This actually comes back later in the show and becomes a bit of a strong character arc for Papa G about the importance of telling the truth to someone, even if it will end up hurting their feelings. But that's in seasons 2 and 3, and they will get their own video in the future. My point is, you get why Papa G did it. He was wrong, and he later admits he was wrong. You want to know what the G in Papa G stands for? It stands for growth. Actually, it doesn't, but you get the joke. Not to mention his voice actor actually worked with Craig McCracken before. Can you guess who it was before without looking it up? Definitely not who you were expecting, were you? I really respect how Craig actually uses real voice actors who really fit their characters. Both Kid and Rosa are voiced by actual kids. You got voice acting veterans like Gray Griffin, Cree Summer, Fred Tatascore, and let's not forget Tom Kenny. Oh God, after so much bullshit he starred in, it's so good to see him in a good role like this. Okay, I know he's done good stuff before, but honestly, it still kinda hurts to see someone genuinely talented like him have his talent be utterly wasted on such garbage roles like Pinocchio and stuff.
Maybe Leonardo. That won't do either. He'd grow up to be a selfish actor.
You got SpongeBob, the Ice King, Heifer, Dog, Spyro the Dragon, the Mayor, the Penguin, Cupid, Eduardo, Scoutmaster Lumpus, and Slinkman, and of course, who could forget his crowning achievement in the world of acting, Mr. Timmerman from Disney Sky High. Still mad he didn't get an Oscar for that one, but at least he voices Chuck in Kid Cosmic. Rosa is a bit typical for a little girl. She likes playing princess and all that stuff, but she's still okay. Definitely has some of the best jokes in the whole show. Joe is the more grounded teen who doesn't really want to be a hero, but still does it just to make Kid happy. She's okay in this season, but has a lot more going on for her in season 2, so we'll come back to her in another video. Tuna Sandwich is a cat. If you know anything about cats, then you know everything about Tuna Sandwich. He also has the best line in the entire show. Yes, it is, and I will not elaborate on it. The side characters are fine, I guess. Joe's mom is the typical mom who loves her boring life and her diner that she inherited from her mom. Like with Joe, though, she does get a bigger role in season 2, so we'll have to come back later to this. Chuck is a lot of fun. It's actually kind of refreshing to see a villain who's being evil just for the sake of being evil. No dramatic backstory, no complexity. No, he's just an asshole, but he's funny, sometimes genuinely threatening, and other times rendered so pathetic you can't help but feel bad for him, like when he loses his legs in episode 3. Despite being just a mindless follower of the great leader, I like how he does manage to play off of Kid's insecurities, like the fact that he's not living up to his own high standards. He's the one who reveals that Papa G lied to him and uses Kid's anger to call his great leader to Earth so he can take the stones. And it actually works! The great leader comes to Earth, gets the stones, but then the US government comes in and takes the stones back. So throughout season 1, this biker is constantly seen in the background just drinking coffee. He doesn't say anything or react to anyone, but in truth, he's actually been paying very close attention. It turns out he actually works for the US government and wants to use the stones to fight aliens himself. And when I say himself, I mean give the stones to these Power Ranger knockoffs called Earth Force Enforcement Force.
Wait, are you serious?
Now at first, it just seems like he wants to do the same thing as what Kid and his friends were doing, right? Well, turns out his goal is to use the Stones of Power to make Earth into a galactic superpower that will be respected throughout the galaxy. Because to him, when aliens come to his home, he sees it as a sign of disrespect and wants to instill fear and respect to all of those who come to his land. Gee, I'm surprised he didn't want to build a wall around the Earth and make the aliens pay for it. Seriously, all this guy is missing is the red cap and we'd be all set. But all jokes aside, we've seen the government end up being the antagonist in movies involving aliens before, but they actually make this guy a lot of fun to watch. He's actually a bit like Kid in that he makes the Earth Force pose like the Ginyu Squad or something. And when they do it correctly, he even cheers! Kind of like a kid who pictures himself as a hero. But then it turns out there's another twist to the Stones of Power that, if I'm being honest, I'm not going to spoil in this video either. Again, this show is great and doesn't get as much love as it should. Therefore, I want you to go watch the show yourselves so you can learn the truth. And while you're at it, be sure to let Netflix know how fucking stupid they've been for treating animation this way. By giving these more underrated animated shows more relevance, we have a chance of proving to Netflix that they are in fact worth every penny. I will say that the twist actually does tie in very well to Kid's arc of overcoming his own insecurities of feeling like a comic relief character and showcasing that heroes are more than just those who punch the bad guys. Which brings me to probably the best part of the show, Kid himself. You want to know what makes Kid such a great character? What makes him so likable, relatable, funny, entertaining, and endearing all at once? Well, it's simple, really. He is a kid. Kid the Kid. He's annoying, he throws temper tantrums, he can be bossy, he's a real kid. If Craig McCracken knows anything, it's how to write kids. He's not afraid to make the kids in his shows unlikable from time to time because, well, kids can be very frustrating from time to time. They act like this. But they also have very distinct personalities, each and every one of them. You remember the Powerpuff Girls, don't you? I said the real Powerpuff Girls. I said the real Powerpuff Girls? Perfection. Craig actually talked about this in an interview and how Kid is actually based on himself when he was a kid. Like how he lost his father at the age of 7, which is why Kid lost both of his parents. He brings up Kid's and Joe's relationship and compares it to his own relationship with his older sister. And Rosa is actually inspired by his own daughter. Man, the fact that Craig is in his 50s now somehow makes me feel old. Craig stated that he wanted Kid Cosmic to be the opposite of Powerpuff Girls. Where in Powerpuff Girls, the emphasis is more on the action and surprisingly graphic violence. Like, seriously, how did that show get away with all of that? Kid Cosmic focuses more on the message that heroes help, not hurt. And at first, Kid doesn't really believe in that. Being a huge fan of comic books and old video games, Kid believes that to be a hero, you gotta fight a bad guy. And once he receives his powers, that's exactly what he focuses on. Now, as I've said multiple times already, his powers aren't made for fighting all that well, which, thinking about it, is actually very clever for the show to do. Give the kid who believes that being a hero means fighting bad guys a power that sucks at fighting bad guys. It's a pretty great way to get that message across. And hey, while you're at it, give all of his teammates great powers that are awesome at fighting bad guys. Being the noble hero Kid is, there's no way he'd get super jealous and decide to steal the rings and invite a potentially dangerous villain to Earth just so he can have a win over his friends. Oh wait, he does that? Oh shit. After being called the comic relief by Joe's mom and learning that he was lied to by his friends and Papa G, Kid decides to show the others how much of a hero he can be. So by stealing the rings, he allows Chuck to call his glorious leader to Earth so they can fight. And Kid, surprisingly, does pretty well for himself, even surprising the others. But does this fix everything?
I've been trying to keep you happy ever since you suffered the sadness of losing your folks.
Just promise me one thing.
Whatever you want, kid.
Just stop saying you don't want to ever hurt anybody.
Damn, Papa G, you just got shamed by an 8-year-old. And deserved it. After losing the stones to the government, however, Kid runs away and disappears with no one knowing where he is. Not even the government itself. By this point, Kid realizes how much he had screwed up and begins to doubt himself. He burns everything that he believes taught him wrong and decides to stay out of everyone's way just so he won't hurt them anymore. It's here, however, that he learns how he can actually be a real hero, by stopping the fighting between the aliens and Earth and returning the stones to where they originated from. Kid's arc of learning about what it means to be a true hero as opposed to a real hero is definitely a unique one. Even the big climax in the final episode isn't some giant battle, but rather Kid just using his powers to bring peace between the different aliens and Earth. He tells the biker guy off for believing that true strength means hurting others just because they're different than you, and he ends up returning the stones back to where they came from. He eventually helps Papa G fix up the diner and even the creamer, and becomes a better person both for himself and his community. Kid's arc wasn't about forming a fist, it was about extending a hand. Which, yeah, the Powerpuff Girls were more than okay with forming fists, but I think this is a really cool message for kids to learn these days. With the MCU being as popular as it is, kids can easily be led to believe what Kid did in the beginning of the show. So having a superhero learn this in a genuinely relatable and compelling way is very unique, smart, funny, and just plain super. Guys, Kid Cosmic, it's pretty awesome. Everything about it just works. The animation is great. I love the stylized comic book look to it that actually shows great expressions, color, cinematography, fight scenes, character and alien designs, and still being unique to Craig's other works. Seriously, this guy is just a master of style. None of his shows look like each other, and that's just freaking awesome. The music is great. This classic 80s-esque punk rock really sticks out and fits perfectly with the setting they're in. Every character is fun, likable, relatable, funny, distinct, and all have their own thing going for them, which we'll see more of in the next 2 seasons. I really don't have all that much else to add. Kid Cosmic is just a criminally underrated show, and if I'm being honest, even though I'm sad it's over, I'm kinda glad it did end before this bullshit animation purge happened. Like, seriously, talk about right in the nick of time. There's no telling what would have happened to this great show should it have still been going on when Netflix decided animation suddenly wasn't all that great. And to hear that he's no longer working at Netflix because of the layoffs, that really sucks. Or maybe he's better off. I think he might be better off, to be honest. All I know is that Craig hasn't failed me yet. Every show he's made so far has been flat out bangers. And if I can say something bold, I'd say that Kid Cosmic might just be his best show so far. It's incredible how he's managed to evolve with the times and keep up with this new generation of animators. Kid Cosmic easily sits up there with Amphibia and The Owl House as one of the best animated shows in recent years. And while it may be over, I just know sometime soon, Craig is going to come back and do it all over again. And yet, we still have 2 more seasons to talk about.
Give me all you've got if you're prepared to break the silence. I'll be out in the sunshine, running beside the lion.